All right, welcome. Today we're going to take a wild ride through the modern workplace. We're talking about everything from the crazy life of a globe-trotting CEO all the way down to the surprising secrets hidden right there on your own desk. So let's just dive right in.
So, to kick things off, I want you to really think about this question. What is your office? I mean, is it a building you commute to? Is it a spare room in your house? Or is it something much, much bigger? You'll see, the answer is way more complicated and honestly a lot more interesting than it used to be.
Okay, first up, let's zoom all the way out to the big picture, where the whole idea of a physical office is kinda dissolving. We are deep in the era of the borderless office, a time when work, for a lot of people, really has no walls.
And to really get a handle on this, you've got to meet someone like Carlos Ghosn. As the boss of two giant car companies, Renault in France and Nissan in Japan, his office wasn't a room with a desk. It was basically an airplane.
I mean, just look at how his time was literally carved up by the world map. He'd spend about 40% of his time in Paris for Renault, another 35% in Asia for Nissan, and that last chunk, a full quarter of his year, was spent everywhere else, the US, you name it. This isn't just business travel, it's a life that's completely defined by being in motion.
And don't think for a second this is just for CEOs. This new commute is happening all over. You've got IT engineers from India working on huge projects in the UK. You've got professionals in Europe who hop on a flight between Brussels and London like it's a bus. The whole world is shifting to this model of temporary, project-based work that jumps across continents.
But let's be real, this lifestyle is a huge trade-off. On the one hand, yeah, it's amazing. You meet people from all over the world, you build this incredible global network. But on the other hand, it means a ton of time away from your family and your home, and trying to figure out international taxes, it's a nightmare. It's a really tricky balancing act for everyone involved. So, if people are spread out all over the planet, how in the world do they work together? This brings us to our next big idea, how the very concept of a team is being completely rewritten from the ground up.
You know, the way we used to think about teams was so simple. It was people in the same company, probably in the same building, with a formal boss. Today, it's a whole different ballgame. Teams are fluid, built around projects that might only last a few months. They span the globe, held together by Slack and Zoom calls, and are way more informal and fast-moving.
And here's the real secret. Some of the most important teamwork, the stuff that actually solves problems, isn't happening in scheduled meetings at all. It happens through networking. You know, that informal magic that happens when people from totally different departments just talk? That chat by the coffee machine? That's often where the real information gets shared. And some companies are really leaning into this. Get this, they're actually building special creative rooms, painting them in bright, crazy colors, totally separate from the normal gray cubicles. Why? Because they know that sometimes just changing your environment is enough to spark a brilliant idea. Okay, so we've looked at these big, broad trends. Now let's put one single company under the microscope and see how this all plays out in the real world. We're going to look at the Italian eyewear giant Luxottica and its massive global gamble. So, Luxottica is an absolute powerhouse. They're the ones making the shades for brands like Chanel and Prada. Plus, they own Ray-Ban, which by itself is 15% of their business. But here's the crazy part, the core of their entire strategy. 85% of their factories are in Italy, but less than 5% of their sunglasses are actually sold in Italy. They sell Italian craftsmanship to the entire world. And if you want to see what power looks like, check out this chart. Luxottica has 5,500 stores. Their main competitor has 50. That's not a competition, it's total domination. This lets them control everything and basically muscle their rivals right off the shelf. But even giants have weaknesses. For Luxottica, there are two huge question marks looming over its future. First, they're making a massive, risky bet on China, planning to double their stores there. Second, and this is a big one, who's going to take over? The founder is in his 70s, owns almost everything, and his kids aren't in the business. The future of this empire is totally up in the air. Okay, so we've gone from a massive global strategy all the way down to the one place where your own work actually happens, your desk. And for years, we've all been told that a tidy desk means a tidy mind. Well, I'm here to tell you that might be a complete myth. You've heard this a million times, right? The experts claim that if your desk is messy, you're wasting an hour and a half every single day just searching for stuff. It's a scary number, and it sounds like it makes perfect sense. But hold on. Research actually shows there are two kinds of people, filers and pilers. The filer has that perfectly clean desk because everything gets put away immediately.
The only problem is they have so many files they can't remember where anything is. The piler, on the other hand, might look disorganized, but those piles are actually their to-do list. They know exactly what's in each one because it's related to a project they're working on right now.
Just let that sink in for a minute. What if the mess isn't a mess at all? What if, for some people, an untidy desk is actually a highly efficient, creative system for getting things done?
All right, for our last stop on this tour, let's talk about how companies build a real sense of community. And we're moving way beyond the stuffy traditional office party. Let's talk about the rise of the office picnic. So you know the classic Christmas party, right? It's formal, it's structured, everyone's a little awkward. Now compare that with the office picnic. It's totally relaxed, you can bring your family, and you can show up and leave whenever you want. It's less about a mandatory event and more about just hanging out.
Of course, it's not all perfect. You have to worry about bad weather, bugs, noisy kids running around. But the number one thing that keeps managers up at night when planning one of these? Food safety. Seriously.
And it all comes down to this one crucial word: edible. Is the food still safe to eat? Because when you've got things like fish, meat, and cheese just sitting out in the sun for hours, they can go from delicious to dangerous really, really fast. It's a huge deal.
But when they get it right, the payoff is huge. There's one company that takes photos from their summer picnic and puts them up all over the office for the rest of the year. Why? Because it's a constant reminder of those great memories and helps keep that sense of community alive long after the party's over.
So, from the borderless office of a CEO to the organized chaos on your desk, the world of work is changing like crazy. It all leaves us with one final big question to think about. Looking at all these trends, what do you think your work life is going to look like a decade from now?